What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And today we're going to be doing a car review or first drive or whatever we're going to call this. Now, no, this is not a car review channel, but I like bringing you guys along whenever I've got access to something kind of cool, something new, something I haven't driven before. And that's exactly what we've got here. We've got the brand new Dodge Hornet, and this is the GT trim. So this is kind of the cool, neat looking trim, and I'm kind of excited to drive this thing. Now, these are all new for 2023, and they're the new compact SUV sized thing that Dodge has out. Now, this shares a whole bunch of chassis and engine and electronics with the new Alpha that is also coming out, but this is the Dodge branded or Dodge badged version here for the Jeep Chrysler Dodge dealerships. Now, what we're going to be doing today, we're going to take a quick look around this thing. We're going to look in this thing. I'd also like to get it up on the lift and at least look underneath this thing, because that's something I haven't seen in too many reviews because most people don't have access underneath the vehicle. So we'll quickly glance underneath this thing, see what we can see, and then we'll go get it out on the road, because I truly have not driven this thing even once. So it will be interesting to go out and get my first impression driving this, and then we'll figure out how well this thing moves, because these are equipped with the 2-liter turbo making 268 horsepower and 295 foot-pounds of torque. So it should be relatively respectable in that regard. Now, this is a GT Plus all-wheel drive, so we do have power going to all 4 wheels as we are making that turbo work. Now, this specific GT Plus does come in at $39,000 because it does have the black top package, which gets you the black wheels, some of those other black trim and accessories. But it is pretty nicely equipped otherwise with the cooled seats, the heated seats, all of that, which we will see a little bit later. But enough talking, let's at least take a quick glance under the hood, and then we will get this going. So guys, here we are under the hood of the new Dodge Hornet with the 2-liter turbo, again, making that 268 horsepower and 295 foot-pounds of torque. And it does look like servicing will be relatively nice and straightforward. We've got our airbox here bolted up very nice and up high. We've got our oil fill cap here. We've got our dipstick here, all very nice and easy to get to. It's not buried underneath. It is relatively straightforward here in the engine bay. One thing which I will mention, we do have actual vents here. These are not completely covered like some vehicles with just a little appearance here. Those vents on the hood are actually, albeit a very small hole, but we do have venting here on the hood, which actually is functional. We can see daylight through those vents. That's always a cool touch when we actually have something functional, not just for appearance. Now, walking around this thing, you can definitely see the Dodge DNA or the Dodge look to this thing. A very Charger kind of front fascia, that lower opening here. We've got the nice aggressive squinty headlights. And this one, of course, finished in the white with black trim. That is my personal favorite here. This one does have a large glass panel here on the roof, which is that sunroof. And then moving around to the back, again, you've got that Dodge look to the back here with some kind of Challenger, Charger looking taillights with that LED kind of running light that goes all the way around this thing. Again, with our black appearance group, we've got all of our badges in black, our wheels in black. It just is a really decent looking small SUV. Now, jumping into the interior, we do of course have passive entry on this, and this is the black leather seating. And of course, this GT Plus does come with the hardened carbon sound system, so we do have the upgraded or better sound system with this Plus. I guess real quick, jumping to that window sticker, again, we've got the Harman Kardon, we've got sport mode, we've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, our keyless entry, all this stuff, which is, again, standard with our Plus package. And again, our GT Blacktop coming with our black mirrors, black badges, black wheels at $39,325. Now, jumping into the interior, you of course have a lot of Alpha. The seats look very Alpha. The interior looks extremely nice build quality, fit and finish. Everything just feels very nice, very quality. This is not a cheap compact SUV on the interior. Now me here at 6'3" in a normal seating position, I still have decent headroom even with the sunroof equipped model. Now we'll quickly jump into the back seat of this thing and see how my 6'3" self fits. All right guys, so my 6'3" self, even with the driver's seat in a position that I would need to be sitting in to drive, I still have decent back seat room here. I've got a little bit of headroom and my knees, albeit, are touching the seat, but I am not cramped, I'm not uncomfortable. So even though this is a small compact SUV, my 6'3" self has decent seating, headroom, legroom here in the back seat. Now, last but not least, we will jump into the cargo area here. This does have power liftgate on this GT Plus model, and it is decent cargo room. You do have the cargo hider here attached to the liftgate, and you do have a pass-through here for your longer items. You can flip that center console down and have a pass-through all the way up to the dash. Now under our load floor here, we've got our tire inflator and a few other items here, but no spare tire here in the Hornet. Now one thing which is kind of neat, we do have little latches which will catch the load floor when you do lift it up. And another kind of neat thing here, yes, the load floor currently is flat, but say you had a taller item that you wanted to fit, you can lower this load floor into the lower position and again drop it with one hand, and now all of a sudden your load floor is considerably deeper than what it was before, and you don't have to remember to take that thing out before you go pick something up, since it does drop down to that lower level quick and easy on the fly. Another kind of neat thing, besides obviously just the power liftgate button, we do have a lock button here at the back. So if you were done and ready to walk away from your vehicle, you could hit your lock and lock that vehicle with the power liftgate button there in the back. All right guys, so that was our very quick interior and exterior overview. Let's go get this thing in the shop and see what we can see underneath. I don't know if it's just going to be completely aerodynamic underneath or what, but we will get this thing up in the air and take a quick look before we go get it out on the road. All right guys, we've got this thing up on the lift now. We will quickly crawl under this and see what we can see before we get it out on the road. All right guys, so starting up here at the front fascia, we can see our big front engine, aero underbody tray. Now this one does not have the optional track package, but that would add 4-piston Brembo brakes here in the front, which is kind of a cool thing on a compact SUV in the class, but this is just the standard brakes for the Hornet. Now starting to walk further back here, we can see our large drive shaft coming out of the PTU heading all the way back to our rear drive assembly. Now one thing worth mentioning is the covered lift points here on the Hornet. Very interesting. We've got a couple of push pins and a couple of clips to access the pinch welds or the lift points on both fronts. I'm not sure I have seen that on a Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge vehicle before, but it is very interesting. Now again, moving further back, we do have our saddle tank here, and if you don't know what a saddle tank is, that is a fuel tank that is saddling a drive shaft or exhaust. You've got part of the fuel tank here, it goes up and over to the other side of the vehicle. Now again, here in the back, we do also have our lift point covers. And now finally here at the rear, at the end of our drive shaft, we've got our rear drive module here. And again, this one being all-wheel drive, we've got our axle shafts. We do have our electronic parking brake, and then you can see our rear exhaust here with the exhaust tips. Now one thing to note, apparently the GT trim cars have the hidden exhaust tips, but the RT trim will have a bright or exposed exhaust tip versus this more hidden exhaust tip on the GT. Now if we take a quick look at the rear axle, we can see we do have a shift motor or a clutch motor or some sort of motor here that is going to be able to just change application of the rear axle, whether that be the lockup or the amount of slip or the function. So I'm sure that's going to work with the traction control system and the different stability or drive modes there. But it is not just a rear axle with no electronics. Like you see, we do have a motor here to change application force on the rear axle. Now real quick, the technician in me can't not look here. We've got our relatively easy to get to adjustment points for our alignments. As you can see, we've got some nice eccentrics here. Nothing's buried, tucked up into the wheel well area like you'll see on some German vehicles. It is very nice to get to here on the back of the rear cradle. So guys, now that we've taken a quick look and seen what we will be riding on, let's go get this thing out on the road, see how it drives, see how that 2-liter turbo feels in this relatively small car, and get those first drive impressions. Okay guys, so we are finally taking off here in the Dodge Hornet. Again, like we talked about in the kind of interior walk around, the seats are very alpha, and that's not to say a bad thing. I've always very much appreciated the alpha seats. Very decently bolstered, very comfortable. I've got nothing bad to say about these seats. They are very comfortable. I do have the seat all the way in the down position here with my taller self, but there is still a lot of adjustment up, forward, back, obviously, like you would have. Now I will say, this is not a pre-production car. This is not a Dodge vehicle. This is a dealer piece of new inventory. So we won't be out beating on this thing since it will be sold and purchased by somebody. So I don't want to go out and beat on their brand new car with no miles on it. I wouldn't want that done to my own. So we won't be out here doing 0 to 60 times. We will just be getting our honest kind of first drive impression of this thing. Now, being the GT Plus model, we do have our adaptive cruise control like you would expect to see on most higher trimmed modern vehicles. And the infotainment is the Uconnect 5, which is a very user-friendly system versus a lot of the other manufacturers out there. You've got your nice quick buttons here on the side that is home, music, comfort, navigation, vehicle, phone, just all of those quick access things, which Uconnect has always been extremely good about usability and functionality here on their vehicles. Now we are going to jump back on to the on-ramp here, and we'll roll into the throttle, obviously with moderate acceleration. Again, we're not beating on this thing. It is a brand new vehicle that somebody will be purchasing. But we will accelerate on as if we are getting up to speed here. And yeah, even again with moderate throttle, we are already moving very quickly. We are very much so up to speed before we've entered the on-ramp. So, and that was, again, effortless. That wasn't even in sport mode. That wasn't even foot on the floor. That was just rolling into the throttle like you'd expect to do. So we're doing 60 miles an hour now. Let's kind of simulate a pass. Again, standard mode, no sport mode. We're going to change lanes, roll on the throttle, and again, it immediately downshifts. That ZF 9-speed transmission that has been fine-tuned over the years works very well. It is pretty much bulletproof at this point, and again, it works very nicely with this 2-liter turbo under the hood. Now, cabin noise and comfort. I have been in a lot of small SUVs or compact SUVs and gotten a lot of road noise, wind noise, all of that associated with a cheaper small SUV. I am not getting much of that, if any. Now, of course, you're always going to have some road noise. You're always going to have some wind noise. We are moving a large metal object down the road at 65 miles an hour. But compared to some of those other small SUVs or compact SUVs, I am pleasantly surprised with the lack of cabin noise or road noise. Like I said, yes, you're always going to have some of that in a vehicle because, again, we've got rubber tires pounding on the road. We've got this big metal object cutting through the wind, but it is very muted in this vehicle. You could very easily have a nice quiet conversation with the person next to you, and you don't need to yell and scream over excessive road noise. Now, this does obviously have lane keep assist also, where it is going to alert you through tactile feedback in the steering wheel when you are drifting off the road, with a buzz of the steering wheel and then finally a correction of the steering wheel. Now onto this sunroof. It is a larger than you would normally expect for a sunroof or a, small vehicle sunroof like we showed outside. It is that large pane of glass that kind of extends midship of the vehicle and all the way forward to the windshield line. And in the vehicle, it does look very large. It looks larger than what you'd expect out of a normal sunroof here. And like I said previously, even with this sunroof equipped model, which typically brings the headliner height down some in most cases, I'm still sitting very comfortably 6'3" in this driver's seat. Again, I've got all of my seat settings set where I would put them, but again, I am not hampered with having my head up on the ceiling of this compact SUV. Now we'll do one more moderate, decent acceleration here onto the highway. Now you do feel once that turbo picks up and that 9-speed drops a few gears, the thing does move very effortlessly onto the highway. And again, that wasn't even in our sport mode. I've activated sport mode and we'll see, do we feel any difference just on our moderate highway driving here. Yeah, I do feel, you definitely feel the throttle mapping has changed. You can feel that it is rolling into that throttle a little more rapidly, quickly with sport mode engaged. Now, ride quality of this thing. Now, it does feel very solid. Now, that doesn't mean it feels jarring. It just feels very solid. Everything feels nice and tight. The steering feels very direct. It just feels very nice driving it. Again, this is just in the normal mode. I've got just a nice steering feel. I've got a solid feel to the vehicle. It feels very planted, I guess is the word I'm trying to say. It would be something that would be kind of fun ripping through, your twisty roads, if you will. It would, at least I would feel that it would kind of hold its own, and it wouldn't just be wallowing about. Now, again, this is an alpha chassis, kind of alpha underpinnings, and those vehicles do handle very nicely. So this is going to follow suit and again, drive, ride, handle very nicely. Well guys, so that was our first drive here and my first drive here in the new Dodge Hornet, and honestly, I was very pleasantly surprised. Lack of road noise like I kind of talked about a lot, and the power does feel very good. Once that turbo spools up, once that 9-speed drops a few gears, it moves very, very well. So if you're in the market for that compact, small, mid-size, little SUV, I would definitely at least take a drive with this thing. Go out, cross shop, drive them, but definitely stop by your local Dodge dealership and at least get in one and drive it. Because like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. Now I've got to give a big thank you to Davis Moore Jeep Chrysler Dodge here in Wichita, Kansas for throwing me the keys to their brand new Dodge Hornet and letting me take it out and experience it with myself and you guys. So again, if you're in the market and you are near the Wichita, Kansas area, make sure you guys stop in. You can take this exact one home or order your own. Now, this dealership is very cool, and throughout the whole crazy car world, they have not charged over MSRP like almost every single dealer. So I will have their information down in the description. You can click on the link, you could give them a call and see what they've got, check out inventory, and if you need to, get one ordered, and even have yours truly check it over in the shop here. So guys, thanks for coming along with me on a not so car review first drive. And guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.